I started the chapter talking about how calm Lena always made me feel, how being around her felt like someone had finally turned down the noise in my head. "You're my peace," I used to tell her, and every time she'd laugh softly and say, "You make it sound like I'm some kind of miracle." But that's exactly what she felt like, a miracle I didn't think I deserved. Aaron knew it too. He'd nudge me whenever Lena walked into the room and whisper, "Bro, if you ever mess this up, I'm applying to be her replacement fiancé." I'd shove him and roll my eyes, and he'd laugh like it was the funniest thing in the world. Maya, on the other hand, never missed a single opportunity to tease me. "You're getting soft," she'd say. "Next thing you know, you'll be writing poetry on the walls." My parents adored Lena. My mom would always say, "She's perfect for you. Don't let her go." Dad would nod and add, "Finally, someone who can tolerate you." Everything felt simple, warm, right, until it didn't. It started with the smallest things. Lena forgetting to text me back for hours. Lena smiling but only with her lips. Lena talking to me, but with a heaviness under her voice that she didn't bother hiding. One night after dinner I finally asked, "Are you okay? You seem off." She paused, wiped her hands on a towel and replied, "I'm just stressed." "About what?" I pressed. "Nothing. Just things." I tried to read her face but she wouldn't look at me. "Lena," I whispered, "talk to me." She shook her head. "Please not today." I wanted to push more but something in her tone stopped me. So I dropped it. At least on the outside. Inside, something sharp and cold settled beneath my ribs. I told myself it was nothing. Everyone gets stressed. Everyone has off days. But then off days became off weeks. Then off weeks started shaping into something I didn't want to name. One afternoon I mentioned it to Aaron. "She's different," I said. "I don't know how to explain it." He frowned. "Different how?" "Like she's here but she's not. Like she's carrying something heavy and won't let me help." "Did you ask her?" "I did. She said she's stressed." Aaron leaned back and rubbed his chin. "You believe her?" "I'm trying to." He looked at me quietly for a second before replying, "Then keep trying. She loves you, man. People go through things. Don't overthink it." But I was overthinking it. Every night. Every morning. Every time she smiled with that faded, distant expression. Maya noticed it too. "What's wrong with you?" she asked one evening over video call. "You look like you haven't slept in a week." "I'm fine." She narrowed her eyes. "It's Lena, isn't it?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Maya sighed. "Talk to her properly. And don't act like a scared puppy. Use your words." I tried. God knows I tried. But every attempt ended with Lena brushing me off gently, like someone pushing away a curtain they didn't want to deal with. A few nights later, I found her sitting alone in the living room, staring at nothing. "Lena?" I whispered. She blinked and looked up. "Yeah. Are you sure everything's okay?" "I told you I'm just tired." "You've been tired for weeks." She inhaled slowly. "What do you want me to say?" "The truth," I said. She stood up. "I'm going to shower." "Lena." I said I'm tired. The way she said it felt like a door slamming shut. I watched her walk away and that cold, sharp feeling inside me twisted deeper. I hated it. I hated that something was slipping through my fingers and I didn't even know what it was. I kept staring at the closed bathroom door long after Lena's footsteps faded. My mind spun in circles, chasing explanations that never stopped shifting. "She's tired," I whispered to myself, but even my own voice sounded unconvinced. I walked to the window and looked at the streetlights outside, their glow reminding me of evenings we used to spend laughing on the balcony. I wondered when that laughter had slipped away without me noticing. My phone buzzed again. It was Maya this time, sending a meme of a cat yelling at a toaster. I managed a faint smile, but my fingers felt heavy as I typed back, "Funny. I needed that." She replied, "You sure you're okay? You sound weird today." I hesitated before answering, "Just work stuff. I'll be fine." The lie sat in my chest like a stone. I paced around the living room trying to shake off the uneasiness creeping up my spine. Every memory of Lena felt tinted differently now, softer, distant, as if someone had smudged the edges. I told myself I was overthinking, that love changes shape sometimes. But deep down, something colder whispered, "No." Something slipping away. One night, Lena asked to talk. The moment she said those words, I felt something inside me collapse. My stomach turned over, my chest tightened, and a cold fear slid down my spine. I wanted to ask why, but I already knew the answer would hurt. "Sit down," I said quietly, motioning toward the chair by my desk. She hesitated, biting her lip, then lowered herself into the seat. I could see the way her hands trembled, how her eyes flicked away from mine. I have to be honest with you, she began, her voice fragile. What is it? I asked, though my heart was already racing. I still have feelings for Ryan, she admitted, and it was as if the ground disappeared beneath my feet. I wanted to laugh, scream, and cry all at once, but no sound came out. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, my voice tight. Why hide this? I didn't know what to do. I was confused, she said, looking down. Aaron told me to follow my heart. I froze. Aaron? My best friend? My stomach dropped, twisting into knots. Aaron told you to do this? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. He told you to leave me? Lena looked at me, tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear I didn't. I thought I could figure things out, but I couldn't. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to demand answers, but all I could do was stand there, feeling my chest ache, my heart shattering into pieces I didn't know how to pick up. You didn't figure things out, so you leave me? I asked, my voice trembling. She nodded, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. I have to. I can't stay pretending. My throat tightened. I tried to speak, tried to ask her more, tried to understand, but the words died in my mouth. You're leaving me for him? I whispered. She didn't answer. She just shook her head, standing slowly. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice barely audible. I truly am. I watched as she walked toward the door, her steps hesitant, almost broken. Lena, wait. I called, but she didn't turn back. She opened the door, paused for a second, and then disappeared into the night, leaving me frozen in the middle of my room. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It felt as if someone had ripped my chest open and stolen the part of me that believed in happiness. The silence was deafening. My parents knocked softly on my door, their voices gentle, careful. Son, are you okay? My mother asked. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I felt nothing, yet everything at once. Please come outside, she said. Talk to us. I shook my head, barely able to look at the door. I can't, I whispered, my voice raw. My father's footsteps approached, slower this time. Son, pain teaches us who we are, he said quietly, leaning against the frame. It's hard, but it shows your strength. I wanted to scream, to throw myself at them and ask them why, but the words made no sense anymore. I can't hear you, I whispered, more to myself than to them. I can't. They left after a while, leaving the door slightly ajar, but I didn't move. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My mind replayed every moment with Lena, the laughs, the hugs, the way she made my world feel calm, and now all of it felt like a lie, like a beautiful dream that shattered while I slept. I thought of Aaron. The betrayal burned deeper than Lena's words ever could. My best friend had guided her away from me, and I had trusted him with my life. I couldn't understand why, couldn't comprehend the reasoning, couldn't accept it. Hours passed. The night grew darker, colder. The city outside my window seemed distant, silent, indifferent. Lena's words, her confession, echoed in my mind again and again. I still have feelings for Ryan. I closed my eyes and all I saw was them together, her laughing in his arms, his hand on her back, her smile reaching places mine never could. I swallowed hard, trying to force the pain down, but it rose again, stabbing at my chest. Why wasn't I enough? I whispered, the question barely audible, almost lost in the darkness. The words left my mouth like a confession, a prayer, a curse. The sentence broke me, shattered the person I thought I was, and left only a hollow shell where hope used to live. The room was silent, yet inside me, a storm had begun to rage. Anger, sorrow, betrayal, confusion, all mixed into a poisonous brew. My hands shook as I held them together, trying to ground myself, trying to find a way back to reality. I thought about Lena's face as she left, about the tears in her eyes, about how she didn't look back. There was a part of me that wanted to run after her, to beg her to stay, to fight for what we had. But another part, an unfamiliar, cold part, recognized that this was the moment everything changed. This was the point where the old me died. I couldn't save her. I couldn't fix her. I couldn't undo what Aaron had done. All I could do was sit in the wreckage of my own heart, listening to the silence, feeling the emptiness, and whispering to myself over and over, why wasn't I enough? That question became a constant companion, a voice that wouldn't leave, a spark that burned through the numbness. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the pain, beneath the shock and betrayal, I felt the tiniest flicker of something else, a determination, a quiet promise. I didn't know what it was yet. I didn't understand it fully. But I knew somehow that this night, this moment, would mark the beginning of a journey that would change me forever. I stayed there, staring at the dark corners of my room, feeling the weight of what had been lost and realizing, with a clarity that scared me, that my life would never be the same again. Lena had been my peace. Lena had been my world. And now, in her absence, all I could do was face the storm that had begun to take shape inside me. The night ended with me whispering once more, my voice shaking but resolute, "Why wasn't I enough?" And as I repeated it, I felt it transform, from a question of despair into a challenge. The storm was coming. And I would either be destroyed by it, or I would rise from it stronger than I had ever been. I barely recognized myself in the days that followed. My alarm rang but I didn't move. My stomach refused food and sleep was a stranger that wouldn't come. Maya knocked on my door again. "Ethan, please, just talk to me," she begged, her voice soft but insistent. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Each word from her felt like it would shatter the fragile emptiness inside me. "I know you're in there," she said, leaning against the door frame. "You can't keep hiding." I can't, Maya," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I can't see anyone. I can't breathe." Her sigh pressed against the door. "I don't know what to do with you sometimes, but I'm not leaving." Not like she did. My father came by that evening. He knocked gently, waiting. "Ethan," he said, stepping in when I didn't answer, "pain builds stronger men. I know it feels impossible now, but you'll see." "I'm not strong," I muttered, eyes fixed on the floor. "I feel like nothing." "You will be," he replied firmly but with warmth. "Pain doesn't destroy if you let it teach you. Let it teach you." But lessons weren't enough. Not when every corner, every sound, every message reminded me of Lena. Her laugh echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. Her messages, the ones I used to read over and over, now mocked me silently on the phone. Her promises clung to me, sharp as broken glass. Days later, rumors began to weave through college like a wildfire. Lena and Ryan were officially together again. Friends whispered, strangers smirked when they mentioned it, and each mention felt like a hammer pounding into my chest. I wanted to scream at everyone to tell them they didn't understand, but no words came. Only silence. Then Emma pulled me aside. Her hands were nervous, twisting at her sweater sleeves. "Ethan, I think you need to ask Aaron something. Something important." I blinked at her, confused. "Ask what?" "You'll know. Just trust me." "Please," she said, her eyes filled with urgency. I nodded silently. Doubt began creeping in. "Aaron, my best friend, the one I shared every secret with, the one I trusted, could he be involved in this?" My mind spun, trying to make sense of her words. My stomach twisted. Was Aaron a part of this? Had he said something to Lena? Encouraged her? Betrayed me? Maya's knock was soft this time. "Ethan, please. I don't want to lose you. Not to her, not to this." "I'm already lost," I whispered, leaning against the wall. "I don't even know who I am anymore." But slowly, amid the haze of despair, a tiny spark flickered. Survival. I realized I couldn't stay broken forever. I couldn't let Lena's choice dictate my entire life. I clenched my fist. I would not let this destroy me completely. I remembered my father's words, "Pain builds stronger men." Maybe he was right. Maybe strength didn't come from avoiding heartbreak. It came from living through it, from surviving the storm. And I would survive. The next day I forced myself to eat. It wasn't much, just a sandwich and water, but it was something. A tiny defiance. I opened my laptop, checking emails, scrolling through college updates. Everything felt muted, distant. Yet I kept going. One foot in front of the other. Aaron called me that evening. His voice was tentative. "Ethan, are you okay?" I hesitated, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I'm getting there," I said finally. "I need to talk." "Not yet, but soon." "I'm here, man," he said quietly. "Always." I hung up and stared at the ceiling. I couldn't forget Lena, couldn't undo the pain, but I could choose what came next. I could choose to be more than just a broken boy who lost his girlfriend. I could forge myself anew. Later, Maya sat beside me, not speaking. Just her presence was comforting. I took a deep breath. "Thank you for not leaving," I said softly. "You'd do the same for me," she replied. Maybe she was right. Maybe that was all I needed right now. A reminder that not everyone would abandon me. That people still believed in me. That I could survive this betrayal. I closed my eyes that night and whispered to myself, "I will not stay broken. I will rise. I will be more than this pain." It wasn't a promise to Lena. It wasn't even a promise to Aaron. It was a promise to myself. And that somehow felt like a beginning. The emotional fog didn't lift entirely, but the first crack appeared. Through the haze of hurt, through the shadow of betrayal, a faint, persistent light began to shine. And I swore I would follow it no matter where it led. I found Aaron sitting under the old oak tree behind the library. My fists clenched automatically as I approached. "We need to talk," I said, my voice quieter than I expected but sharp enough to make him look up. Aaron's eyes widened and he forced a smile. "Ethan, hey man. What's?" "Don't," I interrupted, cutting him off. "I already know something. Emma told me." He swallowed. "Emma? She told you what?" I took a deep breath, struggling to keep my voice steady. "She said I need to ask you something important. So I'm asking." Aaron shook his head, trying to laugh it off. "Ethan, I don't. Look, Lena came to me for advice and..." I stepped closer, heart hammering my chest tight. "And?" I demanded. "What did you tell her?" He hesitated, avoiding my gaze. I just said. I thought she deserved better. That's all. I didn't mean to." "Better?" I cut in sharply, anger and disbelief mixing in my voice. "Better? You mean Ryan?" His eyes finally met mine, filled with guilt. I didn't know how else to help. I thought I was doing the right thing. My knees felt weak. The ground tilted beneath me as the words sank in. Lena, Ryan, Aaron. Both of them, standing together in some invisible agreement to leave me behind. Betrayal cut sharper than I imagined possible. "You knew what this would do to me?" I asked, voice breaking. "You knew she still loved him and you encouraged it?" "I didn't," Aaron began, but I shook my head violently. "No, don't. I don't want excuses." I felt my chest tighten, my throat raw. "You were my best friend. My brother. And both of you chose someone else over me. How am I supposed to stand after that?" I didn't think," he stammered. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "Then why?" I asked, but I knew the answer already. I could feel it deep in my bones. They had betrayed me. Simple as that. Aaron's shoulders slumped. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I really am." I turned abruptly, my hands shaking. "Sorry isn't enough," I muttered, walking away. Every step felt heavier than the last, like wading through mud. I didn't look back when he called my name, pleading for me to listen. I couldn't. I wouldn't. By the time I reached the edge of campus, the sun was dipping low, casting long shadows over the quad. I sank onto a bench, trying to catch my breath. Everything felt wrong. The warmth of friendship, the comfort of trust, the love I thought was real, all of it vanished. "Ethan?" a voice asked quietly. I looked up. Professor Collins stood there, his usual calm presence making the world seem slightly less chaotic. "Professor?" I said, my voice almost a whisper. He sat beside me. "I see what's going on," he said gently. "And I know you think you're trapped in this pain, but you're not. You're wasting yourself here, drowning in things you can't control." I stared at him, incredulous. "Wasting myself? Don't you understand? Everything I believed, everything I cared about, it's gone. Lena, Aaron, they both." Collins placed a hand on my shoulder. "I understand more than you think. And I can help you channel that pain. You have talent, Ethan. Real talent. I want you to join my research team. Work with me on the new project. It's something that could change your future." I blinked, confused. "Why me?" "Because I've seen potential," he said firmly. "And because I know you're stronger than this heartbreak. But you need to choose to act. Right now you're letting this betrayal define you. You can turn it into something else, something bigger." I looked down at my hands. My palms felt clammy, but a spark lit inside me, faint but undeniable. The idea of moving forward, of building something that wasn't dependent on Lena or Aaron or anyone else, it felt like the first piece of light I had seen in weeks. "Are you serious?" I asked, still skeptical. "Completely," he replied. "I've watched you work. Your mind, your focus, you've just been sleeping through your own power. I can give you a chance to wake up." I laughed bitterly, a sound I barely recognized. "After everything, after her, after Aaron, you think I can just start again?" "No," he said simply. "You can't start over. But you can start forward. Forward is what counts. Forward is freedom." Something inside me shifted. The anger, the betrayal, the heartbreak, they were still there, gnawing, but for the first time I felt a purpose beyond the pain. I could channel it. I could use it. I'll do it," I said finally, the words heavier than I expected, yet freeing. "I want to try. I need to try." Professor Collins smiled, a faint glint of pride in his eyes. "Good. That's all I needed to hear." You won't regret this, Ethan. I stood, feeling taller somehow, the weight of despair slightly lessened. I looked back toward the quad, toward the shadows that had haunted me. They were still there, lingering, but I had stepped beyond them. I had chosen movement over stagnation. Aaron would never understand what this meant. Lena would never see it. But that didn't matter anymore. I didn't need their validation. I didn't need anyone to choose me or approve of me. I had chosen myself. As I walked toward Professor Collins' office, ready to take the first steps into this new world, I whispered under my breath, I will not be broken forever. I will rise. And nothing, not Lena, not Aaron, not anything, will stop me from becoming more than they imagined. And in that moment, amidst the lingering pain, I felt the smallest flicker of hope. It wasn't enough to erase the betrayal, but it was enough to begin. The first morning in Professor Collins' lab, I felt like a ghost wandering among bright minds. Everyone seemed so sure, so capable. I sat quietly at my station, trying not to draw attention, listening to instructions that sometimes went over my head. Ethan, a cheerful voice said beside me. I turned to see Julia Gray smiling. Don't worry so much. You'll get it. I hope so, I muttered. She laughed softly, a sound that didn't feel like Lena, but it felt warm. Trust me. You have a good mind. You just need to focus. I nodded, still unsure. The lab smelled of chemicals and polished floors, a place so different from my empty room where Lena's betrayal echoed. I kept thinking of her and then immediately pushed it away. I wouldn't let it control me anymore. Do you need help with the equipment? Julia asked. Maybe, I admitted. It's all new to me. She guided my hands carefully, showing me how to handle the instruments, her patience steady, her smile never fading. It was strange, comforting, but not the kind that made me dependent. It was supportive. Something I didn't realize I had needed. Over the next few weeks, I buried myself in work. Nights blurred into early mornings. I barely thought of food. I barely thought of sleep. Every problem I solved, every experiment that succeeded, felt like I was reclaiming pieces of myself that had been shattered. One afternoon, Maya came by. I had almost forgotten the world outside the lab. She leaned casually against the doorframe, her usual teasing smirk in place. Heard anything about your ex-girlfriend lately? I froze. My hands were on a microscope, adjusting focus. No, I said carefully. She raised an eyebrow. Maya, come on. People are talking. Lena and Ryan, they're already fighting. Big fight, apparently. A strange satisfaction flared inside me, quickly masked by neutral words. I see. Maya tilted her head. You don't look happy and you don't look sad. You just look stronger. I frowned. Stronger? Yeah, it's weird. You're different, she said, shrugging. I didn't think you'd survive this. But here you are. I said nothing. Part of me wanted to smile, part of me wanted to scream. Instead, I returned to the microscope, feeling the weight of her words settle in. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps I was changing. Julia caught me staring at nothing later that day. Thinking about something? She asked quietly. Just life, I admitted. You're not seeing it yet, but you're growing, she said gently, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder. All this, everything you've been through, is shaping you. You're stronger than you realize. I stared at her. The words struck deeper than I expected. Stronger. I didn't feel it yet, but maybe it was true. I had survived Lena and Aaron's betrayal. I had refused to let them define me. Maybe this was the proof. The lab became my sanctuary. The world outside, Lena and Aaron's petty choices, Maya's gossip, even my parents' worried glances, none of it mattered here. I was building something piece by piece. Experiments, data, research. Each success felt like a small victory over the pain that had consumed me for weeks. One evening, Julia stayed behind with me. The lab was quiet, only the hum of machines breaking the silence. You're different, she said. I don't feel different, I replied honestly. I still think about her. Still think about Aaron. That's fine, she said calmly. You don't need to erase the past to move forward. You just need to focus on what's in front of you. I looked at her, realizing for the first time that moving forward didn't mean forgetting. It meant living, breathing, creating, even if the memories lingered. I'm trying, I said softly. Julia smiled. I know. That's enough for now. Her confidence in me lit something I hadn't felt in months. Maybe it wasn't revenge, not yet. Maybe it wasn't happiness either. But it was growth. Progress. A new version of myself, one that wasn't broken, wasn't dependent, wasn't lost. Maya's words kept echoing in my mind, even after she left that evening. Lena fighting with Ryan, Small rumors floating through the campus. I tried not to care. Tried to focus on my work. But a tiny part of me felt vindicated. They thought they could have it all. They hadn't realized I was still standing. I was not the boy who would crumble. I was stronger, sharper, and starting to see the world in a way I had never before. Julia often stayed after hours, reviewing experiments, discussing ideas. She never flirted. She never tried to be anything more than a colleague. And yet, her presence steadied me. It reminded me that trust could exist without betrayal. That not everyone would abandon me or lie. That some people were quietly, consistently good. One night, after hours of running simulations and analyzing results, she looked at me and said, "You don't see it yet, Ethan, but look at you. You're no longer the broken man she left behind. You're growing." I swallowed hard. Her words resonated. I had survived Lena's betrayal. I had survived Aaron's silence. And I was building a life for myself. Independent, focused, and capable. Maybe one day I would smile again. Maybe one day I would laugh freely. But for now, I focused on the small victories. The graphs, the numbers, the solutions. Every experiment completed, every step forward felt like reclaiming a part of my soul that had been lost. When I left the lab that night, the campus quiet around me, I walked with a different posture. Not confident fully, not healed fully, but a step closer to both. The pain lingered, but it no longer defined me. I was reclaiming myself slowly but surely. And deep down, I realized Julia was right. I was growing. I was no longer the broken man Lena left behind. A new version of me was forming. One who would not be dependent on others' choices, one who could survive betrayal and rise above it. And for the first time in months, I felt a tiny flicker of hope. Not happiness, not revenge, but a quiet, determined strength. This was only the beginning. It was a Tuesday morning when I first saw her. Lena standing outside the glass doors of my workplace, looking like a ghost of the girl I once loved. Her hair was messy, dark circles under her eyes, and her usual confident smile replaced with a trembling, tired expression. I froze for a moment, unsure if I should step outside or pretend I hadn't noticed. She caught my gaze immediately and her lips parted. "Ethan, can we talk?" I didn't move. My chest tightened, memories clawing at me. I heard my own heartbeat in the silence between us. I messed up," she began, her voice quivering. "Ryan, he cheated on me. Used me, lied to me, and left. Her hands shook, tears falling freely. "I want to fix things. I can't lose you too." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Part of me ached. The old part that still remembered the warmth she brought, the comfort she was, but a stronger part of me held it down. The part that had survived betrayal, that had rebuilt itself. "Lena," I said slowly, my voice steady despite the storm inside. I hear what you're saying." Her eyes widened. "So, you forgive me?" I shook my head, almost involuntarily. "No, I don't forgive you. And I don't want what we had back. Not ever." She stepped closer, hands reaching out, trembling. "But I need you. I can't do this alone. I made mistakes, Ethan. Please let me." "I don't need anything from you," I interrupted, my words cutting like steel, calm but sharp. "You made your choices, Lena. Now you face the consequences." Her shoulders slumped. She cried quietly, tears dripping onto the concrete. I could feel the old pain rising, that familiar ache, but I held it in check. I had learned to survive it, to let it fuel me rather than consume me. She whispered something broken, almost inaudible. I love you. I never should have left." I didn't answer. I turned away, walking back inside as if she were a stranger on the street. Her sobs followed me only for a second before the distance of the glass doors swallowed them. Later, Aaron tried. He appeared in the lobby, hesitant, hands in his pockets. "Ethan, can we talk?" I stopped for a heartbeat, felt the old anger bubbling. Then I shook my head and walked past him as if he were someone I'd never known. "Not today," I muttered under my breath, but loud enough that he understood. Julia noticed. She had been watching me quietly from a nearby desk. Her brow furrowed in concern. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I looked up at her. Not because I needed her reassurance, but because I needed to acknowledge a truth I hadn't said aloud. "I think I am," I said. Her eyes softened and she offered a small, approving smile. "Good. You deserve this." The rest of the day passed in a strange mix of normalcy and surreal clarity. Lena kept messaging me, calls, texts, pleas that she needed me, that she had realized everything too late. I didn't respond. I didn't feel the pull anymore. Not for a second. Each message was like a small reminder of her downfall. The pain she had caused me had returned to her, layered and multiplied by her own mistakes. It wasn't satisfaction I felt, it wasn't revenge either. It was understanding. Karma had its way. It was harsh but fair. Aaron sent a text too, apologizing again. I never meant to hurt you, Ethan. I was wrong. I deleted it without reading further. I had no place for him in my life now. My loyalty had once blinded me, but that was over. When Lena sent a voice message, her voice shaking, begging for a meeting, I listened once, not more. Ethan, I can't do this without you. Please, I'm begging. The words hit, but the echo of months of pain reminded me not to reply. I turned off my phone, feeling a strange calm. The chaos outside, the gossip, the drama, the betrayal, was no longer mine to carry. I had survived. I had grown. And this, Lena's downfall, Aaron's failure to act differently, it was just life balancing itself. Julia found me later, walking through the quiet lab. She tilted her head. You've been quiet today. Are you really okay? I nodded slowly. I'm okay. More than okay. I've moved past them. Her eyes sparkled slightly. I can see it. You're not the same person. You're stronger, smarter, better. It's impressive. I felt a warmth in that, not like Lena's comforting, soft touch, but like steady sunlight breaking through clouds. I smiled faintly. Thanks. I think I finally understand that. The messages continued into the evening, Lena's desperate attempts, Aaron's apologies. Each one was a reminder of what I had endured, and what I had survived. I didn't feel anger, not truly. I felt clarity. The pieces of my life were falling into place, and none of them included them anymore. Maya called later, laughing lightly. Heard your ex showed up. Is it true? It's true, I said, voice steady. She looks broken. And that's exactly what she needed to learn. Maya laughed again. I'm glad you're okay. You're different. I can see it. I realized she was right. I had changed. The pain had not destroyed me. It had reshaped me. Lena's betrayal, Aaron's silence, the months of nights spent in despair, all of it had been a storm. And now I was standing in the calm after it, stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. That night, I watched the city lights from my small apartment window. Messages from Lena kept coming, but I ignored them all. I sipped my tea quietly, feeling the old ache in my chest, but it didn't consume me anymore. It was just a memory, a lesson learned, a warning, a mark of my survival. I whispered softly to myself, almost like a promise. I am my own. I am enough. I am free. And for the first time, I truly believed it. She called me early that morning. Lena's voice was shaking, desperate, pleading. Ethan, please. Can we meet? Just once. I need to say everything. I hesitated, my stomach twisting. My first instinct was to say no, to shut the door forever. But a small, rational part of me knew closure was necessary, for both of us. Fine, I replied, voice controlled, steady. But this is the last time. She arrived at the cafe we had once loved, the one where we had spent hours talking about everything and nothing. She looked smaller somehow, hunched, her eyes red from crying. She saw me, her lips trembling as she whispered, Ethan? I didn't answer. I simply motioned to the chair across from me. She sat, fidgeting with her hands, staring at the table. The silence between us was heavy, suffocating. I'm so sorry, she began, voice cracking. I ruined everything. I lied, I betrayed you, and her words faltered as tears streamed down her cheeks. I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know how to stop myself. I stared at her, my heart recalling old memories, the warmth, the laughter, the moments I had treasured. But I held it in check. The man I had become didn't fall apart at tears or apologies anymore. I know what you're saying, I said softly, carefully. I hear it. But do you forgive me? Her voice was small, fragile, almost childlike. I shook my head slowly. No. I don't forgive you, Lena. And I don't belong with you anymore. That person you left behind, the one who loved you unconditionally, that man is gone. Her hands reached across the table, trembling. She tried to grasp mine. I pulled back gently, carefully, avoiding anger but protecting the space I had rebuilt for myself. I don't hate you, I said. But I cannot be with you. Not now, not ever. She broke down completely, sobs shaking her shoulders. Even a small chance, she whispered, almost pleading, desperate. Just a tiny chance? I met her gaze, steady, calm. No, Lena. There is nothing left for us. I have moved on, and you have to face your own consequences. She looked like she wanted to argue, to beg, to twist my words into hope, but she couldn't. The tears streamed freely down her face and she finally slumped back, defeated. So, this is goodbye? Her voice was barely audible, fragile, breaking my heart and yet freeing me at the same time. I nodded slowly. Yes. She sat in silence for a long moment, staring at the table as if trying to memorize every detail, every memory we had shared. Then she stood, slowly, trembling, and I realized this was the moment she would walk away for good. She looked back at me again, eyes searching mine, desperate for something, anything. I didn't call her. I didn't speak. I simply watched as she turned, walked toward the door and then paused. She looked back again, hope glimmering in her eyes, a faint spark that she thought might change my mind. But it wouldn't. Not this time. When she finally left, I felt a strange peace wash over me. There was no anger, no hatred, only calm. The storm that had once consumed me, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the sleepless nights, was finally dissipating. She had done her part and I had done mine. Now it was time to close the chapter completely. I leaned back in my chair, letting out a deep breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Julia had been watching from a nearby table, and she gave me a small, understanding smile. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. I nodded. "I am. More than okay, actually." She tilted her head. "You look different. Stronger." I smiled faintly. I had to become different. I had to survive this. I had to survive her and me and everything in between. Julia reached out, lightly placing a hand on mine. "And you did." I looked down at her hand, feeling a warmth I hadn't allowed myself to feel in months. Not like Lena's warmth, fleeting and dangerous, but steady, grounding. "Yes," I whispered. "I did." Later, I walked out into the sunlight, feeling the breeze on my face. Lena's words, her apologies, her sobs, they were echoes now. Faint, distant reminders of what had been, but they no longer held power over me. I was free. I had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. I had rebuilt myself stronger, wiser, and more capable than I had ever been. I thought briefly of Aaron, of the lies, of the way he had betrayed me by advising her. I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt understanding. People are flawed and they make mistakes. I had learned that the hard way. But that didn't mean I had to be a part of their lives anymore. That evening Maya called. "So, she finally came?" "Yes," I said, voice calm, almost peaceful. "She came and I let her go." Maya chuckled lightly. "I always knew you'd handle it better than anyone else. You've changed, Ethan. You're not the same boy she left behind." I smiled softly. "No, I'm not. And I won't be again. This chapter is closed. Forever." I spent the rest of the evening in quiet reflection, the memories of Lena's pleas and apologies lingering only as reminders of my growth. I was no longer a boy who cried over someone else's choices. I was a man who had endured, who had survived, and who had reclaimed himself from the chaos of heartbreak. Finally, as night fell, I stood by my window, looking out at the city lights, feeling a calm I had never known before. I whispered to myself, softly but firmly, "I am free. I am whole. I am enough." And for the first time in a long time, I truly believed it. The storm had passed and I had emerged on the other side, not bitter, not broken, but stronger, at peace, and ready for whatever came next. Months had passed since Lena's final goodbye. The days blended together at first, but over time, I noticed something shifting inside me. The anger, the heartbreak, the despair, all of it had faded. What remained was clarity. I had become stronger, calmer, more in control of my life than I ever imagined possible. Professor Collins stopped by the lab one afternoon, his usual keen expression softening. "Ethan," he said, placing a hand on my shoulder, "your paper has been accepted for publication. You've done remarkable work." I blinked, momentarily stunned. "Published, already?" I asked, trying to hide the disbelief in my voice. "Yes," he replied, smiling. "Your ideas have merit. You've grown far beyond the boy I first met." I felt a swell of pride, a quiet thrill that had nothing to do with Lena, Ryan, or Aaron. I had achieved something entirely my own. "Thank you, Professor. I couldn't have done this without your guidance," I said sincerely. Julia, who had been quietly working nearby, looked up from her notes and smiled at me. "You've earned this, Ethan. You've worked so hard and you never gave up, even when things were hardest." I turned to her, meeting her gaze. Her eyes were steady, kind, unwavering. I don't know what I would have done without you," I admitted softly. She shrugged lightly, a small smile playing on her lips. "I just kept showing up. You did the real work." That evening, I decided to walk up the hill that overlooked the city. The sun was just beginning to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. I stood there for a moment, feeling the breeze on my face, letting the quiet calm wash over me. Maya appeared behind me, her usual teasing grin replaced by a soft, proud expression. "I see you finally stopped staring at the past," she said. I chuckled lightly, though it was warm, genuine, not bitter. "I think so," I replied. "It took a while, but I've finally accepted everything that happened. Lena, the heartbreak, even Aaron's betrayal. None of it defines me anymore." Maya nodded. "I always knew you'd get here. You're stronger than you realize." I looked down at the city lights, twinkling like scattered stars. "It's strange," I said, whispering almost to myself. "The storm Lena brought into my life, it hurt more than I ever thought possible. But I see now that it wasn't meant to destroy me. It was meant to reshape me." Maya rested a hand lightly on my shoulder. "You've rebuilt yourself, Ethan. Piece by piece, stronger than before." I exhaled, a long, deliberate breath that seemed to carry away the remnants of my old pain. "I suppose so," I said. "I am no longer the man who let his heart break over someone else's choices. I am me." Julia had joined us quietly, standing a few steps behind. "You're inspiring, Ethan," she said softly. "Watching you grow through everything, it's remarkable." I smiled faintly, feeling warmth in my chest. Not the overwhelming, chaotic warmth I used to feel with Lena, but steady, grounding. "I never thought I'd reach this point," I admitted. "I thought I'd always be chasing shadows, living in regret. But here I am. And it feels good. Real." Maya laughed lightly. "Good is exactly what you deserve." I turned to both of them, letting their presence anchor me. I've spent so long looking outward, at the people who hurt me, at what I lost, that I forgot to look inward. I finally see it now. I am enough. I am capable. I am alive. Julia smiled, her eyes shining with quiet admiration. "And you're finally choosing yourself. That's the most important thing." I nodded. "Yes. I choose myself now. I choose the life I want, the person I want to be. I'm no longer bound by what others did to me. I am free to build something meaningful, something lasting, something mine." Maya placed a hand on my back. "And I'll always be here to remind you how far you've come. You've turned a storm into strength, Ethan." I laughed softly, genuinely, feeling a lightness I hadn't known in years. "It's funny," I said, "how much growth comes from pain. I wouldn't wish betrayal on anyone, but I also wouldn't erase it from my life. It shaped me. It made me see who I could be when everything fell apart." The wind blew across the hill, carrying with it the last rays of the sun. I closed my eyes for a moment, listening to the quiet hum of the city below. "Lena didn't break me," I whispered. "She shaped me. Aaron, none of it matters now. I matter. I am the one I answer to, the one who decides my worth." Julia's voice broke my reverie. "And that's why you'll keep moving forward. No matter what comes, you know your strength." I opened my eyes, looking at her, then at Maya, then back at the horizon. "Yes," I said firmly. "I am ready. Ready to face the future on my own terms. To build, to grow, to live. I'm not the man who lost everything. I am the man who rebuilt himself from the ruins." For the first time in years, I smiled without reservation. It wasn't forced, it wasn't shadowed by pain. It was real. Genuine. Oh. I stepped off the hill, feeling the firm ground beneath my feet, each step carrying me forward. The city lights stretched before me, bright, endless, full of possibility. My past was behind me, lessons, scars, and all. My future awaited, uncharted, open, and mine. And as I walked toward it, I whispered once more, quietly but with certainty, "I am enough. I am free. I am ready." The story ended not with heartbreak or revenge, but with a calm, profound peace. I had survived, I had grown, and I had reclaimed my life. Lena, Aaron, they were chapters one would never forget. But I was no longer bound by them. I was bound by myself, by the strength I had forged in the fire of betrayal. And for the first time I looked ahead with hope. Not as a man defined by loss, but as a man defined by resilience, growth, and the choice to rebuild.